The most resilient thing in the world is the American economy. You can load these saddlebags on this thing and load them down, and this beast will still run because the fundamentals of the American people are sound, and you can't stop the American people from being ingenious, clever, creative, and wanting to support their families. Unfortunately, if that's true, he will get some credit, which means we have to be very smart if we think that what he's doing is indeed putting saddlebags on. I think it's a fear of a lot of conservatives that this economy will turn around and that he will get some credit for it. But that's not the only thing that matters. The other thing, and this is fascinating, I spoke to a group in New York, masters of the universe, board of directors of one of the major banks. These are some of the guys who mess things up, but mostly pretty good guys, but very, very wealthy guys. My son, who's in the business, said, "Dad, you were talking to people who control half the wealth of the country, and hedge funds and all that." And they are staggered, bewildered, and hurt by Barack Obama. Half of them voted for Barack Obama. And they said he doesn't understand what he's doing. He does not know how he's going to destroy markets and put us at a competitive disadvantage. And the thing that really hurt them is he talks about them as if they are villains. When this last piece about the offshore banks, they have their funds offshore, they made it sound like it was criminal, that it was against the law, and of course it's not against the law. Well, this is the shock of recognition. I said, how many of you voted for Obama? The hands didn't go up, but half that audience did. So this recognition is coming across.
Michael Medved is certain President Obama is going to be reelected some days because the economy will come back. On the other hand, we do not remember inflation generally. Americans hate inflation more than they hate unemployment. They hate inflation more than anything because it robs them, and it especially drives older people. Jerry Ford, whip inflation now, the first campaign I worked on, WIN, and you remember the inflation years, and Bill remembers the inflation years, and Dennis was 50 when the inflation years were around, I think. And I just think that even if the stock market goes up, you can't print this kind of money. You can't do this. You cannot hose the country down with money and not have double-digit inflation before the end of 4 years, and that will be their undoing.
For a lot of people, particularly people of the conservative side, mourning in America has turned into mourning with a U in America. But it shouldn't. It shouldn't, because one of the things that's very encouraging is yesterday when the entire press corps was totally obsessed with, the 100 days, and he's so magnificent. I read on the air today a TV review of President Obama's performance at the press conference. And it was in the Baltimore Sun, and they said he gets 100 out of 100. Never before have we had a president. John F. Kennedy at his best day, Ronald Reagan at his best night, nowhere near the calm and the mastery and the substance. Come on. I mean, truly, the important thing that happened yesterday was not the press conference. The important thing was the vote on the budget. Understand, this is a budget that is going to add $9.3 trillion to our national debt. That's what President Bush in all 8 years added $2.3 trillion to our national debt. It was bad, but basically, even if you've gone to public school, you can definitely do the math. 9.3 trillion, a lot worse than 2.3 trillion. And the fact is, of all the Republicans on Capitol Hill, not one, not even Arlen Specter, who isn't a Republican anymore, he voted no on the budget. There were 4 Senate Democrats and 17 Democratic members of the House who voted no on Obama's budget. All Republicans voted no. The beginning of political victory is when you unite your side and you divide the other side. That's the big accomplishment of Obama's first 100 days. It is absolutely correct, the conventional wisdom. It is not enough to simply say no. The American people don't want that. I mean, one of the things that is striking is that the Democrats in Congress have very low approval ratings. The approval ratings of the Democrats remain far below that of President Obama, which is an indication that what people like is they like his personality, they like the historic nature of his presidency, they like some of the celebrityhood that he has put forward. but they don't necessarily like this permanent growth in government that is being pushed by Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid. Very fine column today by Karl Rove about Obama outsourcing his presidency, basically saying, oh, decisions about actually devising a health care plan, that's above my pay grade. We're going to turn it over to Henry Waxman. Very encouraging. This is not encouraging, but it's not simply enough to oppose. And it seems to me that Paul Ryan, a fine congressman, young congressman from Wisconsin, who is part of our party's future, made a very good start at this, laying out an alternative budget that included an alternative tax system. Now, Hugh has a fine book right now arguing against the fair tax, and I've been favorable toward the fair tax. And Hugh has kind of more than halfway persuaded me. And the point about this is for Republicans now to be arguing about fair tax, flat tax, what we need to do is basically come together in defense of the market, in defense of liberty. Because the core principle that has to unite Republicans, even if they disagree on other issues, is the more government grows, the more liberty shrinks. And the more you can cut back government and get it out of our lives and out of our pockets, the more you can grow the liberty that we all enjoy and celebrate.
Boy, this sure feels like socialism to me. And when Hugh gives the definition of socialism, what did you say on the last topic?
Government owns the means of production.
When government owns the means of production, to me, if the government is in fact micromanaging business in the private sector and running the auto industry and running the banks, boy, I think Newsweek was right when it said we're all socialists now. I mean, this is a frightening aspect of this intrusive, massive, explosive government that President Obama has introduced during his first 100 days in office. I think we ought to be petrified about government-run entities like the auto industry, like healthcare. And again, I'm not quite sure why sometimes there is this disagreement that we're headed down this socialist path, because it sure, based on what this smart guy to my left says, it sure seems like socialism to me, and I think it's something that the American public wants to reject and should reject. The latest polls are showing, as Michael pointed out the other day, that a lot of people are pretty cozy with the idea of socialism, more than a scary amount of people happy with or comfortable with the concept of a socialist government. So it's terrifying to me, and I think it's one of the most vivid examples of what's wrong with the Obama administration.
On the socialism issue, I think you and I, again, agree on this. I think it's a terrible mistake to attack President Obama and his agenda and all of that socialist. You know why? The American people don't know what it is. The Rasmussen survey asked people very simply, do you prefer a capitalist America or a socialist America? And 53% said they preferred a capitalist America. 20% said they preferred a socialist America. And 27% said, I don't know, I'm not sure, because they don't know what it is. They have no idea what it is. Among young people, by the way, it was even for people below 30. The same number of people said they preferred socialism as preferred capitalism. What does that mean? It means it's not a useful word. Useful words are big government. People understand what that means, and they don't like it. They are more afraid of big government, according to Gallup, than they are of big business. And rightfully so, especially if there's a chance of big government eating up half of what we earn. One other thing about socialism. Look, by the standards of people who are warning about the Obama socialist agenda, would we describe Great Britain, the United Kingdom, as a socialist country? It's not so clear. In the United Kingdom, you can still start your own business, lots of regulation. I don't want to live in England. I don't want to live in the United Kingdom. But Margaret Thatcher changed that country a lot for the better. They have one of the lower tax rates in Europe. Yes, they have socialized medicine and a medical system that stinks. But talk about that. Using socialism as if it were a slogan that's going to scare people, it actually makes us look like we're alarmists and name callers. Big government is the phrase. That's what Obama is all about. And that you can't argue against. They have to admit it. That's what they want. Bigger government, more money of yours taken and used quickly. That's the problem. Not the idea that Obama wants to go in that direction. He does. But it has to be provable, it has to be believable, and it has to be comprehensible to the American people.